Hello there. So today I decided to do a video about Sun square or opposite Pluto. So I think this is a very interesting topic because the Sun is our identity. So every planet that has some kind of like a bad aspect with Sun, it actually manifests in a very interesting way. So because in this case Pluto is square or opposite to the Sun, it means that we actually have these Plutonic traits about ourselves, but they are not integrated into our personality and sense of self. So we usually project these qualities on other people, and we might even get very pissed off about these qualities in other people, but actually it is the mirroring that is happening here, because the Plutonic traits that is related to power, that is related to intensity, depth, control, and obsession, and especially domination. Actually, these traits are something that we might felt maybe that they're not acceptable when we were growing up, so we kind of locked them into our subconscious mind. So they actually are here somewhere in our subconscious mind, but we are not actively using them, especially in the beginning of our life or before we try to integrate ourselves, like all the parts of ourselves into our personality. So during that time, we actually attract people. We may attract a lot of people. We have a lot of people in our environment that are quite dominating and like power obsessed, and we might really don't like them, and they might piss us off a lot. But actually, it's just the mirroring that is happening, as I said. They are just representing that unconscious part of ourselves. So also with this placement, sometimes there is this unease about the energy. It's a little bit different because even when the Mars is with the opposition or square with Pluto, it's a little bit more physical. The unease is physical. You kind of know where to put your energy. You have this like a lot of this maybe dark or intense energy, but because you're not integrated into your Mars, you kind of don't know how to use it. But with the Sun, it's not that much about the physical energy. It's more about the psychological energy. It's kind of that you feel that you want some power, or I don't know, if you are being conscious about that, of course, you might feel like that you want to have authority over something, or you want to just dominate someone psychologically, but it just feels so weird and so unnatural to us if it's not integrated, that we might just freeze. So it's the state where when you feel a lot of something happening inside of you, but then it's so uncomfortable, and it's kind of dark, and it feels like something is wrong, so you just freeze because you don't know how to use this energy productively. And also it might feel that if you're going to act from that state, you're going to ruin something, or you're going to destroy your relationships, or something like that, because you feel the dark and intense energy. And also it might be related to the house that the Pluto is placed on and the Sun is placed on, where the conflict happens between what spheres of life. So yeah, and if you are not conscious of that, you might just either freeze, or you might just, I don't know, have very frustrating experience, like you feel kind of vulnerable, but at the same time you have this unease and you just don't know what to do with yourself. So with this aspect, it's very, very vital to observe what triggers you the most about people who have the Plutonic traits. So what triggers you the most in people who are seeking authority, who want to dominate someone? What don't you like about that? So you kind of need to observe that, maybe write it down. Another tip is also, you know, it's not an easy aspect, but you need to explore it anyways. So just try to explore your own like inner intense longing for domination and authority, and in what areas of life do you have it, because you most of the time you will have it, but it will seem a little bit inappropriate for you. And yeah, also you might have some childhood memories when, if you had a chance, you would misuse your authority over someone. So for example, you might have maybe a little sister or a younger friend or younger neighbor or younger relative, and you would sometimes use like a psychological manipulation, or trying to show off your power in some way. Or you might have attracted these kinds of people who were a little bit older than you, and they would misuse their kind of power in some kind of way to scare you or to dominate you. So you really need to access all of that, all of this sphere in your life, basically what is related to psychological domination, authority, and things like that. And it's very important to unravel the part of yourself that wants to have some kind of power. And with this aspect, it might have been like, people don't, like, usually most of the people, or especially those that are outside of the family, they would never think that you're someone who likes to control, or maybe even someone from the outside might see that in you, but you yourself would never describe yourself as someone who has these tendencies to seek authority, to seek being an authority, to seek dominating someone, to seek having power. You would never associate yourself with these qualities because they're kind of foreign to you. But in this life, you actually will need to learn to incorporate them into your personality, and it will probably come with some kind of struggle, because if it's like a square in opposition, it will have some kind of energetic charged like energy that you need to compose somehow and contain within yourself. So I think in this situation, with I also compared a little bit with Mars, because it has some similarities, but with Mars it's more about like physical power. But with Sun opposition or square Pluto, you could also access this energy through competitive sports, or just basically anything that is competitive, where you kind of need to be for yourself and to establish your own sense of, authority, basically. But with the Sun, it's more like psychological aspect. It's not about the physical authority, but more psychological. But also it can be related in some cases. So you can do competitive sports, you can do some competitive hobbies, maybe, where you need to compete for the first place, or maybe even in a team to compete for first place in a team. But it's better to where you are like a separate individual, because it touches your Sun, so it's more like your sense of self and your ego. It can be also maybe a job where you are seeking to have more of the like authoritative position, like maybe a manager or someone who has some kind of power. So you kind of learn to use this energy in a balanced way, that you don't hurt others, but you still need to kind of be assertive and in place of control, basically. So yeah, this is very interesting aspect. And also, of course, because Sun represents the father figure, it is most of the times you would have quite a difficult relationship with your father, maybe. I don't even know how to explain that. It's very, very weird feeling, like your father might have hurt you psychologically or physically, but you understand that your father was a little bit troubled himself, that he had maybe a rough childhood himself, or some rough psychological problems himself, so you don't really, I don't know, for everyone it might be different, but you don't necessarily are angry about that on him. But the problem is that you really want closeness and you really want the deep relationship with him, but it sometimes seems that the closer you get to your father, it hurts, because some sort of actions that he does or reactions that it has on you, it's a little bit painful. It can be a little bit aggressive, or just it just affects you very deeply. Anything that your father does, it affects you very deeply. If someone else from the family would say something to you, of course it also depends on the aspects. Maybe you have other aspects that say something different, but if someone else does the same thing that he does, or says the same thing that he does, it will not affect you as much. But when your father says it, it just is so deep and it's so painful. So it actually is worth exploring that as well, because the more you transform your relationship with the father, the more healing comes your way. And the other way around, the more healing you do on this subject, the more transformative it is for your relationship with the father. So in the best case scenario, I would even advise you to go to the psychologist with your father together, like as a couple therapy. I don't know, but just like really get to understand the dynamics between the two of you, because it is extremely transformative and it would bring so much amazing change and healing into your life if you would unravel all of these difficult and difficult dynamics between two of you. And also men in your life. So also in the partnership, you might want, if you're a woman, you might really like men who are controlling and authoritative, but it's also is very painful for you, because you might want some kind of approval from them that you maybe didn't get from your father, or some kind of closeness that you couldn't get from your father. But then if you attract similar men to your father, it will be also quite painful to understand that he maybe doesn't accept you as well for the same reasons, or maybe that he will not give you as much closeness as the same as your father didn't give you. But if you are going to have this kind of man in your life, and you are going to try to also get deep into the core of this dynamic, it will always also translate and transform the relationship with the father. So it's very important, and it's a very good and interesting and important point of the life. And of course, it's not going to be easy, but time by time, step by step, basically, you will, if you're going to go on this journey, it will transform your life and transform your personality, because it's Sun. So it will help you to be more confident in yourself, in your personality, in your unique, persona. You will get a lot more confidence and self-respect and self-assurance by doing this transformation related to the father problems or man problems or authority problems. It is very important, because with this aspect, as I said, because you couldn't really integrate the control and authority part to your own personality, you might have attracted people who were using their power on you, so you maybe felt a little bit disempowered in your life. And working through this dynamic will bring you the inner sense of authority that you were maybe looking in from the outside world before, looking for some kind of validation from the outside. But if you're going to go through this transformation with these different steps that I mentioned, so what I was mentioning, so the father thing, the man thing in the relationship, then the authority feelings and like intense relationship regarding the control and authority that maybe you really want inside of you that you couldn't acknowledge before. If you're going to do all of these things to understand this dynamic better, it will be just so good for yourself as a person, as an individual, as a you know, just for that confidence, and it is very important, basically. So yeah. I guess that's all I have to say about that. This is very interesting topic for me, so I might think about doing this with the signs, but I would do with the opposition, because with the squares it would be a little bit too difficult. So I could do maybe with oppositions, like how it affects with the houses, especially maybe through the houses, because it will affect some kind of area. So for example, if your sun is in the 9th house and the Pluto is in the 3rd house, it might be that you want to shine yourself through your philosophical beliefs about life, and you kind of expand yourself, but you feel like maybe your siblings or your childhood friends or your old ideas and your like hometown environment kind of blocks you from expressing your truth and expressing your new understanding of the world that maybe you gained through years. Maybe you traveled somewhere, or you maybe lived abroad, and then you kind of feel blocked by that hometown environment to express that. Or maybe if your sun is in the 10th house and the Pluto is in the 4th house, you would kind of want to shine yourself through your career, through your personal power, and through your place in the society, but you kind of feel that your family or your mother or your home life is just like trying to control you and doesn't allow you to shine yourself out to the world. So yeah, it's a very interesting aspect, and just comment down below if you have this aspect. I'm actually very curious about that. If you have some similar experiences related to father figure, or just that sense of authority inside of you and stuff like that. So thank you so much for watching. Have a good one. Bye.